Almost half a year ago, I had a debate with a friend about xenophobia and racism. He said that they were the same thing, and I claimed the contrary. That whilst they were in theory different things, in practice they tend to be the same thing. I still stand by that opinion, and I won't mention this debate again, as it was very unproductive and didn't end up anywhere. But what I want to do is expand on how, depending on a different interpretation of a certain concept, like race, can result in making most things that are xenophobic also racist. First, let's define racism and xenophobia. Webster's dictionary defines xenophobia as being fearful of what is foreign and especially of people of foreign origin. Racism, in contrast, is defined as a belief that a race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capabilities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of one particular race. Also, behavioral or attitudes that reflect and foster this belief, racial discrimination or prejudice. In practice, racism and xenophobia, especially on a macro or international scale, tend to be more or less the same thing, such as in a situation where a white European discriminates against a black man from Ghana. This would be considered both racist, as the discrimination happened because of his race, as well as being xenophobic, as he is a foreigner and there exists a certain type of stigma against foreigners in these situations. But not all discrimination based on somebody's place of birth has to be racist, exemplified by the largely negative reaction of South African blacks towards foreign workers from other African countries, or more prominently, the discrimination of Polish workers and nationals who live in Germany or the UK or other European countries. And these interactions, following the American idea of race being that the race is solely determined by one's skin color, which is kinda retarded, as groups with the same skin color can have vastly different phenotypes, exemplified by West Africans being generally wider and more muscular, and East Africans being generally skinnier. Wouldn't be considered racist, but only if you use the American definition of race. Americans tend to have a much more simplified idea of race. Not that there is a correct idea of race, but Americans tend to, if asked what race they are, say that they are blacks, aka Africans, Asians, aka East Asians, mixed races, or browns, which could mean a plethora of things, such as Arabs, Indians, or South American mestizos. And of course, then you have whites, the Hyperborean race. Well, similar to any idea of race, it is wrong. It is considerably simpler than the European or specifically German idea of race, in which race is used in many cases as a synonym for ethnicity or nationality, but not necessarily, as this idea also often simplifies races, as exemplified by the idea of a Slavic or Eastern European race or the Germanic race, which would both include a vast amount of different ethnicities and nationalities who only broadly are related. So by this definition, the European definition, the earlier mentioned example of the Poles being discriminated by Europeans, for example Germans, would be considered racist. On another note, what is racism and what is xenophobia gets somewhat more confusing when you look at it on a micro or national scale, as discrimination against descendants of African immigrants wouldn't be considered, by our modern concept of being a member of a nation, xenophobic, as they're native to that country. But of course, the people that would discriminate wouldn't consider them part of that nation. On the meso level, or the individual level, everything would be both racist and xenophobic to a certain extent, but it's very confusing. Well, that was it with the video. Thank you for watching. Sorry for only making a short video this week. I've been busy with exams, but next week I have a lot of free time, and it's gonna be a longer video. It's gonna be about Assyria, and I think the video after that, so the week beyond that, will be about modern recruitment, like the whole military eagle thing will be mentioned. It's very interesting. And I don't want to make like a woke, or the US is becoming woke, how bad, video, but it will be in that direction. Pretty interesting, I think.